Good morning everyone and welcome back to my channel English Literature. Today we are going to talk about Shakespeare's one of the last solo plays, that is The Tempest. Now the setting, Tempest was written in 1610 to 1611, and next the setting. It is a magic island, probably in the Mediterranean. Now, sources of the play, though the play is original, but Shakespeare draws the inspiration from Ovid's Metamorphoses. Again, Montaigne's essay of the cannibals can be taken as a source. Next, some notes to remember. The first performance is possibly at the Blackfriars Theatre, London, 1610. The play is performed before King James I in 1611 in Whitehall Palace. John Dryden and William Davenant stage a spectacular called The Tempest or the Enchanted Island in 1667. Next, the background. Prospero has been banished as the Duke of Milan by his brother Antonio. For the past 12 years, he has lived on a deserted island with his daughter Miranda. She is now 15. So when Miranda left the dukedom, she was 3 years old. And after that, you just calculate 15. Prospero's deep interest in the study was the cause of his downfall. Prospero was so busy, so absorbed in his studies with his books, that he neglected his rights and duties as a duke and gave the whole responsibility on his brother Antonio. Now Antonio uses the situation for himself. He banished Prospero and became the duke. Now Prospero's great interest in study, the cause of his downfall at the one hand in Milan, has ironically helped him to control the island through magic. Caliban, the deformed son of the dead witch Sycorax, is Prospero's unwilling servant. Ariel, a spirit who had been imprisoned in a pine tree by Sycorax. You have to keep in mind these notes, these points, that this pine tree, in which tree Ariel was imprisoned and by whom. And he also serves Prospero but gratefully. That is the difference between Caliban and Ariel. Caliban is forced to serve Prospero while Ariel is grateful to him for his rescue. Now, as the play opens, Prospero has caused a tempest at sea, leading to the wrecking of a ship carrying his old enemies. Now it is the time to take revenge, and from this point we will read the play. The play starts in this point, and this is the background, and you must be all familiar with the background to understand what is going to happen next. Now we will have a look at the speech, the very first speech that Miranda is talking to his father. Miranda, my dearest father, if by your magic you have raised this storm, stop it now. Miranda is very much concerned about this storm, and she can understand that it is the cause of his father. Now she is very conscious, she is very concerned, and Prospero is saying, calm down, don't be so upset. I am not reading this line by line, you can read this so you understand how the play is going to progress and what is Miranda's concern and how Prospero is coming her. Tell your tender hearts there is no harm done. Miranda, oh, this is a terrible day. Prospero, no harm, I have done nothing. But what is best for you, my dearest daughter? You don't know who you are, nor where I came from. You do not yet know that I am greater than just Prospero, your humble father, who lives in a humble cave. So now this is time for the revelation. Now Prospero is going to reveal about the path that we are familiar with, because we just read the background. So we are familiar with the past, what happened 12 years before with Prospero and Miranda, but Miranda is not well acquainted with that fact. She is now going to listen. Okay, Miranda, I never thought I should know more. Prospero, it is time I tell you, lend me a hand, help me remove my magic cloak. We'll come to this removing of magic cloak later. Okay, we will talk about symbol. Now have a look at the major characters. The characters. At first there is Alonso, the king of Naples. This king of Naples also helps Prospero's brother Antonio in his banishment. So he is the villain character, the helping hand of the villain, the head villain. Okay. Now next is Sebastian. He is brother of Alonso, who also schemes against him. So he is another villain character because he schemes against his own brother. Prospero, he is the rightful Duke of Milan. He was banished by his brother Antonio and survived to a deserted island along with his daughter. Miranda, she is the daughter of Prospero, who was driven into exile with his father. She is 15 when the play begins. Antonio, his Prospero's brother, the usurping Duke of Milan. He is a powermonger and never feels remorse for his acts. So here the main theme is brother versus brother, you can say. And the one hand there is Alonso, and Sebastian is plotting against him. At the other hand there is Prospero, and Antonio banished him from his dukedom. So brother versus brother. This is the main theme of this play. Now Alonso helps Antonio for the doom of Prospero. Later, Antonio convinces Sebastian that he should kill Alonso so he can become the ruler. So these three characters, and Alonso, Sebastian and Antonio, they are bad characters. Typical flat bad character. Now other character will have a look. Ferdinand. Ferdinand is son of the king of Naples. He falls in love with Miranda. So the enemy's son falls in love with the enemy's daughter. Gonzalo, he is an honest old counselor who helped Prospero and Miranda to survive. He provides books, food and water in their boat to help them survive. Adrian, Francisco, they are the lords. Caliban, he is a savage and deformed slave. After his mother's death, he was enslaved by Prospero. Sycorax, she is a witch and Caliban's mother. She used to rule the island before Prospero comes. She died before Prospero arrived. Tranquillo, he is a jester. Stefano, he is a drunken butler. Ariel, it is an airy spirit. He was trapped by the dead witch who is now dead as the play opens, but freed by Prospero. So, trapped by Sycorax and freed by Prospero to serve him. Iris, Ceres, Juno, there are the spirit and they appear in the mask as names. Captain, there is captain of the ship, there is boatswain. They are less significant characters. Now we will look at the act-wise summary of this play. Act 1. A ship carrying Antonio and Alonso is caught in a storm and wrecked on a strange island. Miranda suspects her father Prospero has used his magical powers to cause this storm. She laments the loss of life she is sure has occurred. We meet this concern on the part of Miranda at the very beginning, where I quote the lines from the play itself. However, Prospero assures her that no harm has been done. He then reveals to her the story of how the two of them came to this deserted island. So now the story is told in the flashback to Miranda before the play proceeds next to the other characters. 12 years earlier, when Miranda was not even 3 years old, Prospero had been driven out as the Duke of Milan. His own brother Antonio, with the help of Alonso, the king of Naples, had arranged to have Prospero and Miranda taken out to sea and put on a rotten carcass of a ship. Means very weak, fragile boat with no sail, mast, rigging, or tackle. This means, what does it indicate? It indicates they are actually sent to die. They are sent with such equipments that living is impossible. Living must be impossible for them. But with the help of a nobleman named Gonzalo, they would have survived. Gonzalo had provided them with food, water, books, and other supplies. So Gonzalo is a noble character. For the first 12 years, Prospero has had the help of Ariel, a spirit with magic powers, and Caliban, a deformed human who has lived on the island since birth, and who was his mother, Sycorax. Now, as he keeps these two servants, who are the two servants, Ariel and Caliban. As Miranda and Prospero talks, Ferdinand, a prince of Naples, Ferdinand is the son of Alonso. Now what happened in the shipwreck? The crew of the ship, they got divided. It was also Prospero's trick. He separated, with the help of Ariel, separated Ferdinand from his troop. And Ferdinand is found that he is coming forward towards them. Miranda and Ferdinand fall in love at first sight. So, falling in love at first sight is a common feature of Shakespearean play. Nothing to worry. Prospero decides to make it difficult for them so that the reward of their love will seem more valuable. So, what he does, Prospero take the stern father look and accuses Ferdinand of being a spy who has come to take over the island and forbids Miranda to defend him. Actually, what he is thinking, we are all acquainted. Now, Act 2. On another part of the island, other survivors have gathered. So, I have already told you that Prospero's trick was to separate them. It is the revenge, the sense of loss, that when Alonso will think that, oh my God, my son has lost and what to find him, I have lost my son. This sense of separation, this sense of anguish, they must suffer that. Gonzalo speaks of the beauty of the island, and Alonso grieves for the loss of his son Ferdinand, who he thinks has drowned. Shortly after, Ariel cast a sleep spell on everyone except Sebastian and Antonio. So you have to remember this, that in Act 2, when Ariel cast a sleep spell, which characters were there who were not slept? They are Sebastian and Antonio. And Antonio, who once uses Alonso to banish his own brother Prospero, now convincing, persuading, goading Sebastian to kill Alonso. What a character! Now Antonio persuades Sebastian into killing Alonso so that he can take over as king of Milan. Just as they get ready to do so, they just drag their sword. Ariel sings in Gonzalo's ear, awakening him. The others awaken too. And Alonso asks Antonio why he has drawn his sword. Now Sebastian makes up a story, concoct bullshit story that there is some noise of animals nearby, but Gonzalo does not believe it. On the other part of the island, Caliban is carrying wood when he sees Trinculo, a jester. Thinking that Trinculo is a tormentor sent by Prospero, Caliban lies flat and hides under his cloak. Now Trinculo, hearing thunder in the distance, decides to take shelter from the storm by getting under Caliban's cloak as well. This is actually a type of comic relief, you can say. a funny scene. And then Stefano arrives carrying a bottle of wine and sees what he thinks is two-headed, four-legged monster. Two-headed means the head of Caliban and Trinculo, and fourth leg means their legs. Deciding to tame the monster and take him home to Naples, he gives wine to Caliban. And when he tries to give some to Trinculo, Trinculo speaks to him. Soon Stefano realizes that it is not a four-legged monster after all, and that Trinculo is another survivor of the shipwreck. They all drink wine, and Caliban offers to serve Stefano in exchange for more wine. So now Caliban, who already despises Prospero as his master, wants to be Stefano's slave. Now Act 3. Ferdinand is now in great punishment. He is forced to carry logs and other activities. Miranda feels sorry for him and visits him. And Prospero, invisible to them both, listens in on their conversation. They declare their love and promise to marry. So Prospero is just enjoying his daughter's love affair with Ferdinand. He is the invisible Mr. India. Prospero is very happy about this. Actually, Mr. India is in English film where Mr. India is invisible. So Prospero is here invisible, and being invisible, he is enjoying the love affair between his daughter and Ferdinand. Now, Prospero is very happy about this. In another part of the island, Caliban, Stefano and Tranquillo talk. Caliban talks Stefano into killing Prospero and marrying Miranda. Stefano agrees, thinking he can then marry Miranda and take over the island. Elsewhere, Antonio and Sebastian are still plotting to kill Alonso. Island spirits presents a banquet to the group, but just as the men get ready to eat it, Ariel appears and claps his wings over the table, making the food disappear. So they are getting tormented by Prospero and Ariel. Ariel then accuses the men of their crimes against Prospero and tells them that they are sentenced to lingering suffering. So they have to confess their sins. When Ariel disappears, Alonso feels so guilty that he blames himself for his son's death. Now they are repenting. At sea, he decides to join Ferdinand in the mud on the ocean floor. He is so sorry for his son. Sebastian and Antonio follow him, probably to make sure he dies. They are still not in the state of repentance. They are so hard-hearted villain. Gonzalo orders the others to follow them all and prevent any disaster. Now, Act 4. Prospero reveals his true feelings toward the loving couple, Miranda and Prospero. He blesses Miranda's and Ferdinand's engagement before Ariel and the other spirits perform a mask for the lovers, singing blessings on the young couple. Now, Prospero then remembers Caliban's plot against his life. What Caliban plots? Caliban plots that Prospero must be killed and Stefano will be his next master. He summons Ariel to deal with Caliban. He orders Ariel to get some of his fancy clothing and spread it on a line as a bait for the plotters. Now Caliban is well acquainted with these tricks. So when Stefano and Tranquillo sees the glittery clothing, they try on it. Caliban warns them, but they ignore Caliban's warning. Then some spirits enter disguised as dogs and chase them. It is also against a comic relief scene, you can say. Next, Act 5. Prospero enters in his magic robes, book and magician stuff. He then tells Ariel to fetch the survivors of the shipwreck who are on the island. He also tells them to get the sailors who are still on the ship, which is not wrecked after all but is in a nearby cove. Prospero then addresses Gonzalo as honorable and good, because for Gonzalo he can save his life. He could save his life. He then confronts Antonio, Alonso and Sebastian and reprimands them for their sins. He forgives Antonio but demands the return of his dukedom. When Prospero shows Alonso that his son Ferdinand is still alive, Alonso is overjoyed. Miranda, seeing people for the first time, is astonished at their beauty. Prospero and Alonso are reconciled and they look forward to the marriage of their children. Prospero frees Ariel from his service at last. So, it is also good for Ariel, as he promised earlier. Now, we will have a look at the themes of the play. Colonialism or colonization, whatever it is. The critics have focused on Prospero as a forerunner of European colonialists. Here in this character, Prospero, he is the forerunner of colonists who enslaved the aboriginals. Who are the aboriginals? The aboriginals are Ariel, Caliban. So Prospero enslaved them, the aboriginals. And the relationship between Ariel is grateful to Prospero but Caliban is not. And the relationship between Prospero and Caliban can be judged in the light of colonizers and the colonized. Prospero views Caliban, a lesser being, that is the white man's burden. Caliban, he thinks that Caliban should be grateful to him for educating him, lifting him out of the savagery. All the colonists look down upon the aboriginals as savage, and they think that it is the white man's burden to salvage them. The white man's burden. But Prospero never thinks in other way, that he has snatched Caliban's right for the land. He has robbed his power. So this is a theme that you can look after. Now next is magic. Magic is obviously a great power of Prospero, illusion that he can create with the help of Ariel. The play begins with Prospero's magic and also ends with Prospero's magic. And begins with the tempest, the storm in the sea, and ends with the Ariel should send the ship safely in Naples. Betrayal. One brother betrays the other, one friend betrays the other. This theme of betrayal is lingering in this play. Revenge. Prospero is ready to take revenge what happened to him. He waited for 12 years, long 12 years for his revenge. Loyalty, we find this loyalty in Gonzalo, in Ariel's character. Servitude, we find in Caliban. Freedom, Ariel asks for freedom, Caliban also seeks freedom. Now symbol, Tempest. Tempest is the greatest symbol of this play. Tempest, you can see it in the inward form, also you can see it in the outward form. Ship tossed by the storm when the play begins. Again, the inward storm in the character in the heart of Prospero, that he is harboring for 12 years. Political upheaval, these all are can you include in the Tempest symbol. Next, books. Books is synonymous with here power. The books causes Prospero's doom. Prospero is too much interested in reading books. But later, books became the savior of Prospero. Gonzalo knows how much Prospero loves books. That's why he places books on his boat. Again, Caliban knows that how important is the book for Prospero. So he advises Stefano to seize the books, to seize Prospero's books. Next, magic cloak. Magic cloak again is the source of power, like the book. Prospero takes off his cloak at 2 points. Do you remember I tell you at the very beginning? Once when he tells Miranda of their history, he is going to tell Miranda the story of their past. He then tells Miranda to take off the magic cloak. And again at the end of the play, when he gives up his magic, he also removes his magic cloak. So these are the aspects that we have to keep in mind while reading Shakespeare's drama Tempest. Okay, thank you.